Today we're going to be talking about one of the most important things of our time, that's protecting yourself from social media companies. Now first, let me share some of my personal experiences with social media in the past year or two. Currently, I'm in Facebook jail for 7 days, which means that I can't post on Facebook. It can't be a post. I can't respond to personal messages. I can't even like other people's posts. I can't even. Last night, someone they tagged me. They kind of spam tagged me, where they tag a bunch of people to get them to look at their post. I couldn't even unfollow that person, so I can't do any of that for 7 days. And it's kind of funny. I was thinking about quitting using Facebook because basically they're a very bad company. Mark Zuckerberg, he's a very bad guy, obviously. But all of a sudden, my Facebook fan page had been showing tremendous growth. For years, I was stuck at around 6,000 likes on my personal Facebook fan page, and I'd get maybe 10 new likes every week or so. It was basically stagnated. It was no growth. But then all of a sudden, I've had a few videos going viral, and all these young people discovering me, having fun. So in about 2 weeks, I went from around a little over 6,000 followers on my Facebook fan page to over 22,000 in about just over 2 weeks' time. And every time prior to very recently, out of 6,000 likes, every time I'd post a photo or a video, definitely if I'd post an outside link like to a YouTube video, essentially no one sees it. But even if I just post a photo, I would get maybe 25 to 50 likes, maybe a few comments. Essentially, it's like I had probably less than 10 people out of 6,000 that was actually seeing all my posts and actually engaging. So it was basically worthless. There's no point in doing something. But now all of a sudden, people that every time I post something, whether it's a photo or video or whatever, people have sharing. I posted one photo, it got over 5,000 shares, which is absolutely incredible to me. But for whatever reason, I don't even know why, they froze my account for a week, so I can't use it. I won't be signing into Facebook, anything like that. And on my other YouTube channel, on the community page, which you can kind of upload social media type posts, I uploaded something saying that, hey, I'm locked out of Facebook for 7 days. I'm in Facebook jail. And I was amazed by how many regular people said the same thing happened to them. Apparently they have a term for it. It's called getting zucked. So that's what's going on with my Facebook, but I'm no stranger to social media controversy over the last year or two. I got kicked off of Twitter a year or two ago, and that was after Vice. They released that story, and I was responding to their tweet about the story, like giving the link to the story. That story about, they had an article written by a literal convicted child rapist that's in jail, and they posted an article written by this guy portraying him as a hero because supposedly he assaults people that are racist or have racist ideology. He goes up and assaults them. This is a guy that they're portraying as a hero that's in jail for raping children as young as 7 years old. So I spoke out about that. There was no warnings. I just they deleted my Twitter. They said, look, speaking out against this goes against our guidelines. That's not allowed. And I got kicked off another social media site that is not such a big deal last year, and that's Flickr. If you're in your 20s, you probably don't even know what Flickr is. It's a social media site that's pretty much died out. But if you were on the internet around 2006, 2007, it was probably the number 2 social media site after MySpace. And basically, Flickr is aimed at photographers, amateur photographers, pro photographers, and anything really photo related. It was for posting photos, but it was huge around 2006, 2007. Over the years, as the landscape of social media changed, keep in mind, this is where you could post, back in those days to Flickr, you could post 200 photos for free, and then if you paid for a so-called pro account, you could post unlimited. And this was back in the days when the only other real competition for a social media site was MySpace, which limited you to 15, uploading 15 photos. So 200 photos for free, and then unlimited if you pay a little bit of money. Well, that was huge. So over the years, as the landscape of social media changed, that site, it went the way of the dodo bird. It pretty much died out. And up to last year, I was one of the last really active users on it. There was, I swear, out of supposedly millions of people that are registered users, there's maybe less than 1,000 active users. And I had about 20,000 followers on this site, which it's not like Instagram. Like I said, this is a social media site. It was owned by Yahoo at that time. And that having 20,000 followers, that was huge. That's like one of the biggest accounts on Flickr probably. It's not like Instagram where accounts having hundreds of thousands, even millions of followers is really routine. Nothing like that. So I had a very large account by Flickr standards. Well, they got bought out by the McAskill family, Don McAskill. They own this company called SmugMug, which is aimed at photographers. It's a service for photographers. But trust me, if you're a professional photographer, you would never use this crap. It's completely worthless. Most people haven't heard of SmugMug. It's a completely worthless service for photographers, and certainly no one that works in the photography industry as a professional would ever use it. So they bought it out from Yahoo. Was probably just going to close it down anyways because it died out. It was like GeoCities. It was very much a thing of the past. Younger people wouldn't even know what it is. Older people that used it, most of them would have forgotten about it. And if you even bring it up in the conversation of social media sites, people would be like, oh, that was a social media site? Gee, I guess it was. I forgot about it. So it got bought out by the McAskill family, and one of the things they did, they're desperate. I'm sure they paid way too much for it, because all they really wanted was the database of users. That's all they were really ever after. But then they're desperate for money. They just blew a lot of money on this basically worthless thing, which they were essentially all they wanted was that database of registered users. That's what they were actually buying. And the Flickr name, which was probably worthless because once something dies out, people probably aren't going to go back. People aren't going back to MySpace. They're certainly not going to go back to Flickr. And I was speaking out about a new policy that they entered into because at this point I was still one of their last active users. And they wanted to limit free uploads to 1,000 free uploads. And then after that you have to start paying, which at this point it was unlimited basically. And I was saying, well, that's really dumb. This isn't 2006, because one of the things they're saying, well, back in 2006, when Flickr was huge, they only allowed 200 uploads. We're giving you a full 1,000. It's not like that, because with all these sites, Instagram, Facebook, and sites that actually still have active users, you can do unlimited posts. How successful in today's climate do you think a site would be as a social media site if they say you can have 1,000 posts, after that you have to pay? Can you imagine Twitter doing that, 1,000 posts, then you guys start paying us? It'd be like a joke. So my argument, I spoke out against it, saying this is going to kill off whatever little engagement is left on this site, and I had a lot of posts about that. And I was even paying for a pro account. I was paying them money to have a pro account, even though there's not a lot of added benefits to that. They just deleted my account, no warning, nothing like that. And now it's funny too, because Flickr's also trying to promote themselves as a cloud backup storage site, which that shows you how unsafe it is. They can delete your account at any given reason for any time. So that's a lot of the problem with these social media sites. Not that getting kicked off of Flickr matters, not that getting kicked off of Twitter really mattered that much. I only had a few thousand followers there before they kicked me off. It hurts a little bit more not being able to post to Facebook, because all of a sudden it was growing. I was getting over 1,000 followers a day on most days. But funny enough, I see this article today, and this is just one of many of these articles that you're going to see. Here it says, Facebook listened to users' conversations, according to a report. Facebook has paid hundreds of contractors to listen to and transcribe snippets of users' conversations, U.S. media reported on Tuesday, amid heightened scrutiny of the social network's data collection practices. And that's just one story of many. This information's been out there for quite a while, and I'm kind of surprised that people really want to use this, because with all their secrets coming out about what they do with your data. And thankfully, most young people, they're not really into Facebook. Now, in the country where I'm in, young people, they're very into Facebook, but certainly in the United States, Facebook's kind of seen as something for old people, moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas. But thankfully, people have been walking away. But the problem is, it's like this with every company. They're all looking at your personal information, and what you need to keep in mind to protect yourself is anytime you send a private message, it's not private. There's other people that can read it, and certainly a lot of the time they are reading it. Even your email. I remember a number of years ago, I heard a story about Gmail where they arrested a guy for child pornography because he had some in his Gmail account. And on one hand, it's great news anytime a scumbucket like that is arrested, but what's really scary is that means that someone from Google was actually looking inside his Gmail account, and it was the employee of Google that called the police on him. So even your email, don't think that it's private. What you need to understand is none of this stuff is private. Certainly, even if you make any post, they can come back and use that in your future. I just saw someone posting online telling kids, parents of young athletes, that you need to be very careful what your kid is posting on social media because that can totally ruin their chance for a scholarship. And that's absolutely true. There's so much stuff that can come back to haunt you, especially if you're posting things that are unpopular, but even things that are perfectly acceptable today, 10, 15 years from now, that might be something that would create a major scandal. But the other main thing you need to do to protect yourself is keep in mind that your private messages on these things, they're not private. Even if you upload something and you set the upload to private status, the employees can access it, and they can use it to blackmail you in the future, expose you, certainly take you down, ruin your life in some way. So you have to keep that mindset whenever posting to these things, that it's not private even if you think it is. But don't feel bad for me about being in Facebook jail, getting kicked off of some of these social media platforms. I still have a couple of YouTube channels where I'm reaching people, and certainly in some ways, most importantly, in day-to-day life, with my interactions in the real world with people, because that, you have to remember, that's what we actually live in. In the real world with people, they're not going to stop me from sharing my positive vibes with other people, spreading my ideas, my beliefs, hopefully bringing a little bit of positivity to other people. And I certainly enjoy doing that in real life. And you need to remember that too. This is the actual world we live in, not this cyber world. So keep that in mind when you're interacting with people face to face. And that's a lot of the times that's actually more influential over people anyways.